Hi guys, and welcome to chapter 10 of Because of WinnDixie. We are going to get right into this chapter reading because chapter 9 was pretty interesting. I'm kind of enjoying these chapters, guys. I like the way they're written. But in chapter 9, Stevie and Dunlap Dewberry, I believe their names were, tried to convince Opal that was a witch's house she was going into. And we quickly learned that it wasn't a witch. It was just our new character, Gloria Dump. So in chapter 10, I'm hoping we learn a little bit about her. We're definitely going to hear more about Opal because it said that she was about to tell Gloria everything about herself. So we're about to hear a little bit more about our main character again. But I hope we learn even more about Gloria because she's not a witch. So I want to know a little bit more about who she actually is. At the end of chapter 10 today, guys, there's not going to be a comprehension set of questions like there normally is after all of our other chapters. But today we're going to do a vocabulary review. I've been pulling out these vocabulary words for each chapter, and I want us to be able to go over them, not just to talk about them and forget them. Hopefully we remember them and then we can slowly use them in our own writing to make it better when we revise. That's the goal. So go back through my videos if you can't remember all the words. I don't blame you. There's 20 of them. So go back through these videos and listen before my readings because I go over each one of them. Maybe you can write it down. I even hold them up, guys, so you should know how to spell them. And then you can use that to help yourself on the vocabulary quiz at the end of this chapter. So go ahead and do that. Before we start chapter 10, though, let's pull out some of those words from chapter 9. One word I pulled out is actually something we had in our classroom. One of our students is this with another student in Miss Settle's room. If you can guess, they are identical twins. So yeah, that's right, Juwan. I figured you all knew by now. And Jalik are both identical twins. If they were not identical twins or non-identical, they would not look alike. So it would just be like me and you, two people who look different. But since Jalik and Juwan, sorry, I almost dropped my card, are identical twins, when they first showed up, we couldn't tell them apart very much. We knew Jalik was in Miss Settle's room and Juwan is in our room. But now we know them better and we can tell them apart, but they still look similar because they're identical. This can be more than just people too, guys. It could be like two pencils. It could be two cups. You could have two identical cups in your kitchen that look exactly the same. You could have two identical pencils in your desk that look exactly the same. So some things that look the same or are alike are identical. The other word I wanted to pull out is also an I word, and it's a word we've heard, I think, probably just as much, but I don't know if we've defined it, if we've given it a definition, because when it stands on its own, it's a little strange. This word instance. And usually you see this with the word for before it. Like you're going to say, for instance, and you're going to give an example about an occurrence in time. So that's what instance is. It's something that occurred in time. So if you're trying to prove a point that 2 plus 2 equals 4, you could say, for instance, Miss Sauer taught us in class that 2 plus 2 equals 4. So that is giving an example of an occurrence in time of that you can prove your point. An instance when that happened. We also know the word, I think, instant. Instead of the CE at the end, it's just a T. So instead of instance, it's instant. And instant is like when something happens quickly, like instant mashed potatoes in the microwave. You don't have to wait to boil the potatoes and mash them and season them and do all that. You can just put them in the microwave and they're done in 2 minutes. Instant, so quickly. Still talking about something that happens in time, like our word instance. An instance is something that happens in time, and you usually give it as an example. Like, for instance, this instance, kind of stuff like that. So those are the two words I pulled out from chapter 9, and at the end of chapter 10, like I said, I'll have one more word to pull out, so you want to be looking out for that. It will be in that vocabulary quiz review. Oops, sorry guys. Without further ado, though, my favorite thing to say, I'm ready to start chapter 10. Let's go ahead and hop right into it. I told Gloria Dump everything. I told her how me and the preacher had just moved to Naomi and how I had to leave all my friends behind. I told her about my mama leaving, and I listed out all the 10 things that I knew about her. And I explained that here in Naomi, I missed Mama more than I ever had in Watley. I told her about the preacher being like a turtle, hiding all the time inside his shell. I told her about finding WinnDixie in the produce department and how because of him, I became friends with Miss Franny Block and I got a job working for a man named Otis at Gertrude's Pets. And I got invited to Sweetie Pie Thomas's birthday party. I even told Gloria Dump how Dunlap and Stevie Dewberry called her a witch. But I told her they were stupid, mean, old bald-headed boys, and I didn't believe them, not for long anyway. The whole time I was talking, Miss Gloria Dump was listening. She was nodding her head, smiling and frowning and saying, and is that right? I could feel her listening with all her heart, and it felt good. You know what, she said, when I was all done? What? Could be that you got more of your mama in you than just that red hair and freckles and running fast. Really? I said. Like what? Maybe you got her green thumb. The two of us could plant something and see how it grows. Test out your thumb. Okay, I said. What Gloria Dump picked for me to grow was a tree. Or she said it was a tree. To me, it looked more like just a plant. She had me dig a big hole for it and put it in the ground and pat the dirt all tight around it, like it was a baby and I was tucking it into bed. What kind of tree is it? I asked Gloria Dump. It's a wait and see tree. What's that mean? It means you gotta wait and see for it to grow up before you know what it is. Can I come back and see it tomorrow? I asked. Child, she said, as long as this is in my garden, you're welcome in it. But that tree ain't going to be changed by tomorrow. But I want to see you too. Said Gloria. I ain't going nowhere. I'll be right here. Sounds like a lot of us right now, doesn't it? I'll be right here. I woke up WinnDixie right then. He had peanut butter in his whiskers, and he kept yawning and stretching. He licked Gloria Dump's hand before we left, and I thanked her. That night, when the preacher was tucking me into bed, I told him how I got a job at Gertrude's Pets. I told him all about making friends with Miss Franny Block, and how I was invited to Sweetie Pie Thomas's party. And I told him about meeting Miss Gloria Dump, too. WinnDixie lay on the floor waiting for the preacher to leave so he could hop up on the bed like he always did. When I was done talking, the preacher kissed me goodnight, and then he leaned way over, and gave WinnDixie a kiss too, right on the top of his head. You can go ahead and get up there now, he said to WinnDixie. WinnDixie looked at the preacher. He didn't smile at him, but he opened his mouth wide like he was laughing. The preacher had just told him the funniest joke in the world, and this is what amazed me the most. The preacher laughed back at him. WinnDixie hopped up on the bed, and the preacher got up and turned off the light. I leaned over to kiss WinnDixie too, right on top of his nose, but he didn't notice. He was already sleeping and snoring on my bed. All right, so that's the end of chapter 10. So we learned that Opal was ready to open up to somebody new. She really did want a friend. She wanted to tell them all about herself. And I just want to go back and read that part because I love it so much. She said, I could feel her listening with all her heart, and it felt good. That's something I mentioned a lot when we were in school, is that it feels good when people hear your voice, and when I don't have to repeat what you guys have said, and when your classmates pay attention to just you. That's kind of what I was talking about. It feels good when people pay attention to your voice and think what you have to say is important. So I'm glad that Opal feels that same way too. I feel a better connection with Opal because I feel that same way when people are really listening to me. It makes my heart feel good. when they're not interrupted, and I can tell they're really paying attention. So that tells us a little bit more about Opal and a little bit more about Gloria. She's a really good listener. So I hope we learn a little bit more about that friendship. I said I was going to pull out a word from chapter 10 before this video is over. So the word I decided to pull out is actually 2 words, and it's this saying, green thumb. Right after they talked, sorry guys, my book was closing. Right after they talked, she said, maybe you got her green thumb. The 2 of us could plant something and see how it grows. When someone has a green thumb, it means that they're very good at growing plants. You think plants would be easy to grow if you just have sun and water and soil, like all those things we talk about what plants need, but different plants need different amounts of sun and different amounts of water and different kinds of soil. Of course, it's never going to be that easy. Just like we all learn differently, all plants grow differently. So sometimes you try to grow plants, but you're not using the right amount of soil, or you're giving it too much sun, or you're watering it too much or not enough, and they don't grow. Someone who has a green thumb doesn't have these problems. For some reason, they grow plants really well, and they can grow a huge garden. When you see those front yards and things with huge gardens and all that stuff, those people at that house must have a green thumb. They must be able to grow that garden well. So when you have a green thumb, it means you're unusually good at making things grow, plants and stuff like that. You have no problem, never killing plants. You have a green thumb. So that is our last word for those 10 chapters of vocab. Go back, look through it. I hope that you like the words I pulled out. I hope that you use some of them in your writing and I start seeing them in these writing passages. But after that, hop back quick, and we're going to get into chapter 11, guys. There are a total in this book of 26 chapters. So we're getting up there. We have about 16 left to read. So I'm really excited to see where our characters go. I hope you are too. Go take that quiz and come right back, and we'll figure it out together. Bye.